Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace dropping in on you. It's Wednesday. So, this is Relationship Wednesday. We're talking about building solid, productive, and functional relationships. And that goes for parenting, marriages, courtships, business partnerships, uh, and everything in between. Generally speaking, a lot of what I talk about when I'm talking about relationships go from foundation upward. And to me, foundational relationships are the relationships through which all others are built and cultivated. And to me, that's marriage. I speak from two different polar realities when I talk about marriage. I speak from a person who has failed at it. I also speak from a person who invested enough energy and time into developing, first of all, themselves, and then developing an understanding of what type of mate I wanted, and then committing to being that person to be able to work on and cultivate what I now have. And that literally came from years of understanding and studying and interviewing. And I mean, just really trying to understand it. It culminated initially in me writing my book, When Your House Is Not a Home. And then it just continued to drive me to know more, to learn more, to try to be better, to try to be more understanding, to try to be less judgmental, to try less in trying to convince people to think like me, act like me, and be like me, and start to understand each person as an individual and meet them somewhere in the middle sometimes, and sometimes be willing to meet them where they're at. Uh, and so, this doesn't come from the platform of perfection. This comes from a lot of trial and error, a lot of doing it wrong first before I figured it out, and I'm still figuring it out. But this what I want to share with you today is huge, and never has it been more necessary to talk about this than at this particular stage in our history, because of all the different distractions that are currently present. And so that's what we're going to do today. Good morning, those of you who have dropped in already. Before I get started, if you haven't gotten Critical Mass, get it. Also, stay tuned. We're going to be doing a couple of promos with the books. Critical Mass was number 20. We're dropping book number 21. I Am the Power of Personal Declaration. That's coming out in days. So we're excited about that. And we're actually going to do, for those people who don't know, Critical Mass is book number 20. I Am is book number 21, but they're also book 1 and 2 in a 6-book series on personal development. And what we're doing is we're going to bundle the books as they are published in a bundle so you can get both. So that's coming later on today, the bundling of the book. And there may be a little something extra in that bundle, but we'll see about that. All right, let's talk. And I'm not gonna take a whole lot of your time this morning, but I do want to hit this home. This is Relationship Wednesday, so we're talking about today being fully present. You have to be fully present. First of all, to cultivate a relationship, you have to be fully present to truly experience a relationship. And we live in a society where rarely people are fully present. There are so many distractions. First and foremost, every last one of you are carrying a distraction in your pocket or your purse. It's your device. It's your go-to. It's everything. And you have been, if you've been like me, you've been out with your family, or you may have gone out to get a meal by yourself, and you're sitting there and you're watching entire families sit there. I've literally seen a family where the husband and wife are on their phone, the younger kids, 8, 9, and 10 on their phone. Then there's a baby, probably 2 years old, with a little tablet with the plastic little thing around it, so if they drop it, they don't break it. And they're scrolling. And nobody's paying attention to anybody else. That's not being present, definitely not being fully present. And when you're not fully present, you miss the experience. It's hard to cultivate a relationship when you are not fully present. When you are not, see, your presence, your attention, when you're sitting there and you have these distractions and you're able to put these distractions aside and you're able to sit up and say, right now, whether it's your husband, your wife, your son, your daughter, your mother, your father, sister, brother, friend, co-worker, parent, when you put that stuff aside for a period of time and say, you have my undivided attention, it not only lifts the spirit of the person that you're dealing with, it not only validates them, it not only lets them know that they matter, it opens up a window that allows you to experience this person in a way that you probably haven't in a while. Why? Because everybody's scrolling their phones and everybody's dealing with everybody within the framework and context of the emotions and feelings that have been set forth by the phone. Most people don't realize that your devices have a massive impact and influence on your state of mind. Number one is just picking up the phone and turning it on gives you a rush of dopamine. That's why people can't put their phones down. Why? Because the moment they pick it up and turn it on, the brain releases dopamine and you get an actual feel good from just turning on your phone. It's designed to do that. It's been designed to do that. Here's the problem though. Once you turn the phone on, you have absolutely no control of what you're going to see. And if you haven't truly practiced the development of mindfulness and a state of mind to where you are aware of the things that trigger you, you are aware of who you are aware of how you're going to take on the challenges of the day, of the week, of the month, and you turn that on and you don't have a true stabilized mindset of who you are, what's on there can actually topple you over to the other side. Yes, turning it on is going to give you a rush. But if you turn around and see something you don't like, see something that bothers you, see some bad news, it can literally send you the other direction. And a lot of people are engaging people who they are sitting in front of through the context of what they've just read or what they're currently reading. And they're wondering why you're irritable. They're wondering why you're short. They're wondering why you're sitting there and you're not giving them your full undivided attention. But not only are you insulting them, not only are you marginalizing their presence and their time that they're giving to you at that moment, you're also marginalizing and minimizing the experience that you could be having with them. They may be going through something, or they may be there to drop something powerful and encouraging on you, but you're so lost in the moment. And then it's not always the device. Okay, we've talked about that. Sometimes you come to the table or you come to the moment where you're supposed to be sharing with somebody with something already on your mind. You're worried about the deadline for your business or your job. You're worrying about the argument you had with your significant other. You're worrying about the phone call you just got from the school. You're worrying about all these other things, how this is going to get paid and all this. So you sit down with all this on your mind and you're there, but you are not present. I'm telling you, if you want to wreak havoc in a marriage, stop being present. And I don't mean stop being physically present. I mean stop being emotionally, psychologically, spiritually present. You know, you're there, but you're not there. You're there. You're worrying about the deadline at work. You're worrying about what your boss is going to say. You're worrying about what you're going to do with your business in these lean moments. And let me explain something to everybody out there. All the stuff that you see on the internet, all the stuff like that, there are lean times for every business. And will things get tight? That's something that's going to happen. It's a part of things. The thing that you have to focus on, are you doing your best work? Are you sitting up and producing the best you can do? Are you committed to being consistently engaged in your work? And when I talk about your work, I'm not talking about the job per se, the thing you get paid to do. I'm talking about your work. I'm talking about the thing you were built to do, the thing that brings you life, that brings you fulfillment. When you're working and you're in your work and you have it as a vocation where you're getting paid for it, is the perfect and ideal situation. It doesn't always happen immediately in life. It doesn't always happen at the same time, but you've got to have something that brings you fulfillment, that you literally get joy out of doing, that you literally wake up in the morning expecting to do and being excited about it, far too many of us are waking up, going to jobs that we hate, dealing with people we don't like, being and pretending to be something that we're not, just so we can get along and get a check. We've been conditioned to believe that's what you have to do. You got so many, that according to recent studies, 85% of the people in this country wake up and go to work just like that, hating where they're going, literally waking up. The vast majority of first heart attacks happen Monday morning between 5 a.m. and 12 p.m. Why? Everybody's getting up and going back to this first day to this job they hate that's got them stressed out to the highest possible level. And it's the longest duration until they're going to see some break in it. So Monday is the worst day of the week for people who have jobs they don't like, bosses they don't like, doing whatever. And don't get me wrong, you got people who own their own companies that are miserable because they got into it for the wrong reason. Okay, now so you got all these things going on. Back to the point at hand. When you get home, you got to leave. You have to learn how to leave it at the door. Because see, when you get home, whether you are the wife or the husband, your spouse is expecting you to be present. Now, if it's something you need to share with them so that they can help you put it down, then that's their responsibility too. If your spouse comes to you and they say, hey, look, man, I had a rough day. I don't want to dump on you, but I need somebody to talk. Hey, let's talk. And then you encourage them, look, it was a bad day. It's going to be better tomorrow. You got this. I'm right here with you. You're never going through it alone. We're going to figure this out. But right now, we have some things we need to do. Let's enjoy one another. We'll pray about it later. We'll talk about it later. Whatever it is that your faith demands that you do to bring you to a level of confidence and calmness, that's what you need to be doing. And you need to do it together. But you can't bring it in. You can't have somebody there and you're not fully present. You are missing the experience. You are missing the experience that's so important in the development of relationships. And that's happening so often. If it ain't problems at work, it's that darn phone or that computer. You have to be willing to put that thing down and experience people the way people have always experienced each other. You can't consistently experience people through the context and framing of what you're seeing on your phone. Be present. Put it down, turn it off, put it in your pocket, put it in your purse, and just take it. Look, you know, I mean, and if you got a call that comes in and it's something you got to take, excuse yourself, make it as brief as possible, come back, apologize, and keep moving. If at all possible, let that thing go to voicemail and deal with it later. You are missing experiences with your children. You're missing experiences with your spouses. You're missing experience with your parents. This life is fleeting, this part of our lives. Now that, you know, I know there are going to be other things that, you know, depending on what your faith is and how you're going to spend life after this life, you know, we're not here to talk about what your faith is or what my faith is or whatever, but we got that. What I'm trying to get you to understand is you've got a limited amount of time to do what God put you here to do. A part of that is to be present in the life of the people who you're closest to, not just sitting there scrolling through your phone. You know, you're there, but you're not there, is what I'm trying to say. You're there, but you're not there. That will destroy a marriage quicker than almost anything except for maybe cheating and financial problems. Finances are the number one cause of divorce in America, followed by infidelity. But I mean, a very, very close third is the simple fact that nobody's connected. It's a complete disconnect. You're there, but you're not there. You're just going through the motions. You're sitting there and you're taking your marriage for granted. And that happens in other relationships too. This isn't just about marriage, but like I told you, I'm always going to talk to you based on what I believe the most foundational relationship can be, and that's the institution of marriage. It's through the institution of marriage that you're going to teach your kids the values that you believe in. If you believe in God, if you believe in Christ, if you believe whatever you believe, if you're a believer in Islam, you're going to teach your children those values and the principles that come out or erupt out of those values. That's where they're going to learn. If you wait until someone turns 10, 12, 14, 15, 16, and you try to teach them principles about finance, it's going to be harder. Why? Because they were at their learning point between birth and 6 to 7 years old. That's when you start telling them all the things. You start sharing with them. You start encouraging them. You tell them what they're capable of. You tell them, you know, that they can do anything, that God designed them to be great. All these things that will actually sit in their minds and anchor and become seeds and bear fruit. But that has to happen before 6. If not, then you got to totally reprogram. And that totally reprogramming thing takes time, commitment, and it's difficult because they're growing up in an environment where other people who think like them are more likely to be around them. And when they try to shift gears, they're going to have people trying to pull them back in the box. That's why it's so important. But in marriage, that's where you teach the foundational principles, where children learn to invest in the foundational principles and interests that will further them in life, as a person, as an individual, as a group, and in situations that we're experiencing in this world, as a race, but as a community, as a faith. You know, for believers as a faith, you have to be able to sit up and do that. So the marriage is the cultivating place. It's the place where everything comes out of. If you do right, your children grow up and they're solid. By the time the world gets a hold to them, they can't shake them. Why? Because the values, interests, and principles that you believe so strongly in have been inculcated into their psyches before they were ever exposed to the world. That's the problem. We're sending our kids out expecting people who don't have our belief system, don't carry our values, to impart principles that are part of our values to our kids. But here's the problem. You can't do it the way you should be doing it because you're not present. When you're with your kids, it's don't talk at the table. Well, that's a good place to teach. That's a good place to share. That's a good place to encourage. Don't talk at the table. Wait, you know, you're not going to talk to them when they get up. They go in their room, you go into your spot, and y'all ain't going to see each other again until in the morning. This is a time to sit down and be present. You've got to listen to your kids. Listen to what the way they feel is valuable. And the moment you start making them feel that what they feel has no validity, you're going to lose their attention. They're going to start looking at other people who will give them an audience and give their opinion some validation. You've got to listen. You don't have to agree with it, but they have to have a space that they're safe in to come talk to you. That's something, you know, the whole idea of kids fearing parents isn't of God. That's not part of the design. That's some history infiltrating and pervading into our thinking that's got us thinking that fear is the way to govern. No, number one is we're responsible for rearing, not governing. Rearing, what does that mean? That means my job is to prepare, empower my children. My responsibility is to make sure when they enter into the world that they are equipped to take on the challenges of life and win. Not to be afraid of me, not for me to live vicariously through so I can live the dreams that I didn't fulfill through them. So I got them out doing something I wanted to do when I was young and didn't get to do, and not listening to what drives them, because see, God implanted a passion that's connected to their purpose inside of them, like he did every last one of us. And so many of us got redirected by our label givers, our parents, our teachers, our peers. You're not good at that. I don't even know. What makes you think you can do that? You're not, you need to be more realistic in your aspirations. I don't think you need to focus on that. We start to squeeze our kids at about 5 or 6 years old. As they get ready to enter into the school systems, they're starting to be squeezed. Get your head out the clouds. Stop daydreaming. That's not realistic. You're not good at that. You probably need to listen to what they're telling you, cultivate them, pay attention. Every last child has a genius in them. I mean, I've dealt with kids with autism and adults. I've dealt with kids with mild mental retardation, Down syndrome. coming out of poverty. I mean, being born into an addiction, meaning their mother was addicted while she was carrying them. And yet I have yet to find one that didn't have a genius, didn't have a gift. But what happens? We live in a standardized society where everybody is doing the same thing the same way, and we're demanding it of everyone else. And we've created something that God never intended, and that's average. Average comes from everybody demanding that everybody be the same. God didn't create your kids or you or anyone to be the same. God created us to live in the uniqueness of our design, the uniqueness of our purpose, the uniqueness of our passion to rise in. We need to start teaching to the gifting of our children instead of the standardized idea. We're funneling them into the work system. We're getting better at that. We're getting more kids getting degrees. We're getting them in the workplaces and finding out the degrees don't mean anything anymore. Why? Because God designed the universe to keep up with the demand. In other words, we tried to make a system that fitted average and made everybody focus and standardize their way of life and thinking, but the universe is saying that's not gonna work. So it's self-correcting. What does that mean? You can go out and get you a doctorate degree, and you'll have somebody who's a high school dropout making more than you. Why? They're working in their gifting. That's what we've got to get back to. And you, the parent, you're the first one to see the gift that your kid has. But you're worried about what's going on. I'm not telling you that they don't need academia, that they don't need academic skills, but that's not what your focus should be, because they're not teaching them business ownership in school. They're not teaching them financial management in school. They're not teaching them generational wealth in school. They're teaching them how to go out and get a job so that the people who had the dreams that built the companies will continue to grow. But what about their growth? All this comes from being present. See, when I'm present, I'm not just here to be a figurehead. See, I'm not just here to say, I'm daddy, I'm the husband, do what I say, listen. I'm here to say, what's driving you? What's bothering you? What's happening? How do you feel? What went on today at school? Did this happen? Did that happen? I'm here to listen and hear, and then take it, dissect it, anatomize it, and sit up and say, you know what? Why don't we try it this way? The moment I respond with anything other than, oh, really? Okay. When I actually sit up and acknowledge, I heard you, the confidence goes up, the shoulders square up, the attention level goes up. Oh man, he's listening to me. That goes for your spouse too. Stop taking the people that you've been blessed with in your immediate periphery for granted. Be present. Absolutely, Yolanda, absolutely. They weren't designed for standardization. They're designed to walk in the uniqueness of their talents, the uniqueness of their gifts. And we as parents have to make sure we nurture that. That's a responsibility of parenting. It's not to sit up and say, you're going to do everything I tell you to do, and I'm going to beat the heck out of you. No, it's to sit up and say, I want the best for you. And I'm going to give you room to think. I'm going to give you room to grow. I'm going to give you some room to make mistakes. I'm going to hold you to a standard, but I'm going to understand that what I have to do for my life isn't you. I have my own purpose, so I don't need a little mini me running around. What I need is to be the best I can be for you so that you become the best you can be. That's how you literally change the world. You change the world by creating little impactful individuals that will go out and not accept the status quo. This is all you can do. This is all you'll be. This is the best you can have. If you want this, you're going to have to hope somebody gives it to you because you can't have it yourself. You can't do this. You can't do this. And everybody's asking somebody for something instead of creating what God gave them to create because they have the resources, the provision inside in their resourcefulness, and they have the access to the total mind of God at hand if they want to access it. If you don't get, look, this is what I'm going to tell you. Because I can go on all day about this one thing. In the cultivation of relationships, be present. I know picking up that phone is almost it's natural now. Why? Because your body knows every time I pick that phone up and that screen comes on, I get a rush of dopamine. The body may not know I'm getting a rush of dopamine. It knows, but it makes me feel good. Here's the problem. That thing can never cultivate personal relationship. It can never give you what God designed. You are a social creature. You, as a mammal, you are by nature a social creature. You're not designed to live in an isolated sense or state. That's why when you put someone in isolated in prison or in a hospital and you isolate them in a room long enough by themselves without human contact, they start to hallucinate. They start to develop alternate realities. They start to lose a sense of who they are, where they are, and when they are living, because you were never designed to operate that way. You get the most out of your life when you have cultivated, loving, fulfilling relationships. And that's something we're losing with technology. Everything is done from a text message. Now you can't even get somebody to text a whole freaking sentence when they text. I drive my kids crazy. Like, oh my God, it's a whole paragraph. You could have said that in a sentence. No, I'm communicating. I'm not shorthanding my kids. I appreciate if you would shorthand me. And we push that so much when we're dealing with our kids that the wife sent one of the kids something, and I don't think she shorthanded it, but she answered it real short. And our daughter came back and said, "Are you okay?" That's because we make an effort. When we have to text with you, we're going to talk this in. My whole thing, I would rather you call me than text me. But I understand sometimes texting allows you to control the situation. Plus, texting will allow you to have multiple conversations at the same time, because you can be texting, switch over and text. I understand it's a time management thing, but what it also does is it takes you out of being able to communicate and deal with each other. We're already not seeing each other hardly anymore. Now we're texting each other, so we're not even hearing each other's voice. We're not getting the energy that comes from that. There's so much we're losing through technology. Everything's being automated. And it seems like, oh my God, it's so more convenient. Some things weren't meant to be convenient. Some things were meant to cause you to have to take action. Some things were meant for you to cause you to have to invest some time and energy into. It's the cultivation of things. Everything that's convenient isn't good. I was talking to somebody, probably, it might have been my baby brother. Maybe about a year ago, we were just talking about how we used to, when we were young boys, we'd go to a dance or something, or go to the store, or like back in my day, it used to be Astro World. That was like the spot to hang out in the summer. And you meet a girl and she say, "Hey, my name is," and she would give you her number. You wouldn't have a pen. You say, "What is it?" And she would give it to you. You would remember it, and you would get home and write it down, and you would remember it. And now you can't remember your own number. Because now if somebody says, "What's your number?" you just pull it up and send it to them, and it pops up on their phone. You can't remember how to call anybody. If you ever get in trouble and you ain't got your phone, it's a problem, because it's literally taking us away from a point where we literally have to invest in our own selves as far as development and growth. We have to learn to be fully present. On that note, look, I'm gonna get out of here. I could talk about this for a while, but to me, if you learn to be fully present in a relationship, you'll listen more. You'll start to hear. Instead of complaining about how somebody's behaving, you'll know why. And then you'll be able to look at yourself and say, what can I do, to help them get through this? What can I do to be more supportive? What can I do to be a pillar of strength? And when you're absent, everything is irritable. When you're there, but you're not there, everything, oh my God, what they want now? Oh my God, what? It's making us highly self-involved, and we're losing because of it. With that being said, look, I'm out of here. You guys have an unbelievable day. And I'm going to get out of here. As I always say, look, live your life on full. Live your life on full. That's my goal when I wake up every morning. I'm going to live my life on full. I'm going to fill my space so that when I leave this place for good, when I take my last breath, I will die on E. And all that means is I will not die with untapped potential still on the table. I will not walk around knowing that I could be doing things that could change lives and just chilling. That is not how I'm going to live. I'm going to live my life on full. That way, when I walk away, I won't have any regrets. I'll be able to sit up and say, I gave it everything I had. I'm challenging you to do the same thing. On that note, I'm stepping out of here.